afternoon. This is all about Bitcoin, a show dedicated to all things questions and markets related to Bitcoin, little b for the currency, and Bitcoin, big B for the network. A collective journey to understand, apply, and use this innovation, all Bitcoin, all the time. I'm your host, Christine Lee. Taking a look at our top stories, JPMorgan Chase is offering all wealth management clients access to a selection of crypto funds, including Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, or GBTC, according to a CoinDesk source. The mega bank will even help retail clients invest in Grayscale's Ethereum Trust, Bitcoin Cash Trust, Ethereum Classic Trust, as well as Osprey Bitcoin Trust through their brokerage accounts, according to Business Insider. Grayscale, note to viewers, is a sister company to CoinDesk. Meanwhile, American rapper Busta Rhymes telling his nearly 4 million followers he's buying Bitcoin, tweeting after watching the Bitcoin conference live with Jack, Elon Musk, and Cathie Wood, "I'm sold on Bitcoin," officially holding Bitcoin, looking into ETH next, adding that his biggest takeaway from the conference, or rather the B-word tech virtual event, is when Tesla CEO Elon Musk talked about government and their monopoly on violence. Have a listen.
If you think of government is just a corporation in the limit. So sometimes some people are like against corporations but for government. It's like, guys, government is just a corporation in the limit. It's the biggest corporation of all, and it's got a monopoly on violence. So if you don't like corporations, you should really hate government.
Meanwhile, BLOCKSTREAM, a prominent and influential Bitcoin technology startup, introducing a service designed to make setting up a Bitcoin Lightning node easy for newbies. The new GREENLIGHT service lets users maintain complete control over their BTC while setting up a node on its cloud infrastructure. All right. Taking a look at Bitcoin, let's have a live look at the CoinDesk Bitcoin price XVX index right now, trading at $32,276. Bitcoin is up just over 1% over the past 24 hours. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the CoinDesk brand, trusted globally as the leader in crypto news, events, and data.
The chart of the day is brought to you by Crypto.com, the world's fastest growing crypto app.
Real Vision and global macro investor founder and CEO Raoul Pal tweeting out this chart on Bitcoin's price since 2012 to present, seen in white, and a model of Metcalfe value in blue, saying, "I cannot get bearish in the larger log chart regression context, nor in Metcalfe's law terms." In a new Goldman Sachs report, analysts in the bank's global investment research division also suggesting that Bitcoin's price may be undervalued relative to the size of the network. Bitcoin has grown, but the price apparently hasn't kept up to pace with Metcalfe's law, which states the value of a network grows along with the number of possible connections. In particular, a network's value is proportional to the square of all connected devices. Analyst Zach Pandel noting that Metcalfe's law, quote, is a simple statistical rule of thumb and not a complete description of these assets' fundamentals. Nevertheless, it's often cited to presage a surge in the price of Bitcoin or even predict its collapse. And joining us now to discuss is Michele Schneider, managing partner at MarketGauge. Welcome to the show, Michele. So taking a look at Bitcoin, slightly up today, but is Bitcoin undervalued or can it go lower?
Well, of course, anything can go lower. I mean, we're in a speculative market, and of course, volume is going to be key. But leading up to the B-word event yesterday, what was interesting about Bitcoin over the last several weeks was that the price went down in a very orderly, quiet type of way, which for Bitcoin is actually kind of unusual because we got used to such incredible volatility. So that once it really broke that 30,000 and tried to test just slightly under, it was met with a lot of buying. In fact, Binance recorded the biggest ever amount of buying to the tune of like 30,000 as far as Bitcoin that day. And then, of course, the B word helped get it back over 30. So, yeah, I would say that just on the base of the volatility and the amount of institutional interest And the whole idea of what happened, how institutions can embrace Bitcoin and B word yesterday, it does definitely appear undervalued. And what's great is right now, if you're a technical trader, which we love to do, you have a really good point where you know you're wrong. And for something like Bitcoin, to know you're wrong within a $3,000 or $4,000 range is actually almost like knowing you're wrong in a dollar range in some of the other more smaller priced instruments.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned the B word, which was yesterday's talk with Elon Musk and Jack Dorsey on Bitcoin. Do you think that is still having residual effects, or maybe Bitcoin is up today just because, the U.S. stocks and the overall markets are up?
Well, again, can be a correlation, although we have seen the opposite where the markets are going up and Bitcoin's going down. Clearly, in the last rally up until Monday's big decline in the market, Bitcoin was continuing to go down. So I don't know if that relationship is necessarily right now making any kind of impact on the price. So I would say yes, the B word is definitely having an impact because people are just digesting what was said. And if you listen to some of the buzzwords that came out of it, particularly from Elon Musk, I'm not a seller, I don't dump, I pump, I haven't sold any of my coins. Of course, Cathie Wood and her incredible looking at it as a disruptor going forward. And I love Dorsey's comment about world peace, that he hopes it brings world peace, even equipped with the tie-dye shirt, for those of us old enough to remember what that means. I think that it's still having a very positive impact here. And again, technically, 30,000 held. That's key.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned the stock markets. Are you in the camp that believes that Bitcoin is totally uncorrelated with the stock markets? And along those lines, when Bitcoin plunged below 3,000, other top performing stocks like Tesla also plunged. What do you make of that correlation?
Well, it's a really great question, Christina, because I have actually created something called the Economic Modern Family, which really consists of the traditional instruments one would think that gauges the U.S. economy, like small caps and retail and transportation. And several years ago, even before all of this, I added crypto as part of the character. And we have really been trying to find exactly how crypto relates, not just to the overall market, but to the U.S. economy. And I think that relationship is still relatively unclear. But what I do know for sure is that there is a relationship. I couldn't give you a definition of that right now because I think it's still relatively premature compared to something like, the Dow Jones Industrial Transportation Index, which goes back a couple of hundred years almost. So, I think that this is definitely going to have an impact on the economy and not just the coin itself, but obviously the technology, the Ethereum technology, blockchain technology, all of this is going to have an impact. And I think that's kind of what Jack Dorsey was trying to say, is that it could be very cohesive in terms of how people look at currency and technology away from the government. To pretty much what Musk had said.
Some people, Michele, think that Bitcoin operates on its own. It's its own asset class, and that's the reason why to invest into it to hedge your risk. But JPMorgan CEO Jamie Dimon has called Bitcoin a fraud, which has evolved over time. Now he's saying it's not his cup of tea and that he's not a supporter. But what's interesting is that now JPM is the first major bank to allow their retail wealth management clients invest in GBTC. Would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I try not to take too seriously the words of most people who have a lot to gain or lose as a result of what they say. And Jamie Dimon has also been talking about retiring in general. So maybe he wants this to be his swan song, that he's going to turn out to be right. I don't know. All I know is this. Whatever he says, what you just said is definitely more relevant in that they're allowing their high net worth clients to buy it. And it's a trend that's happening in some banks. If you take a look at Silvergate, for example, Silvergate just reported second quarter earnings, and they had a $4.3 billion deposit recently tied to crypto, which means that they don't make money on the price of crypto necessarily, although there's a relation. They make money on the volume of the transaction, and they just recorded this huge transaction on top of what we just talked about with Binance. So fraud or not, I see more and more legitimacy every single day as other things come out, whether it's something something like Barclay in sports saying that he's buying Bitcoin, or it's PayPal increasing its exposure, or Michael Saylor or whatever. I think the biggest thing is going to be the mining and the environmental concern that Elon Musk brought up, because to me, if they can resolve that, I think that would really send this all flying. And he mentioned nuclear energy. That'll be interesting to see what happens going forward with that.
Yeah, it's continuing to develop. All right, Michele, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
All right, that was Michele Schneider, managing partner at MarketGauge. Coming up, a clean crypto mining ETF coming to the New York Stock Exchange. All right, registered investment advisor Viridi Funds is launching an ETF focused on clean energy crypto miners. The fund will invest 80% of its capital in crypto miners and 20% in semiconductor companies that take advantage of cleaner energy sources. And joining us now to discuss is Viridi Funds CEO Wes Fulford. Welcome to the show, Wes. So tell me a bit about Viridi Cleaner Energy Crypto Mining and Semiconductor ETF, its composition and how it works.
Yeah, so the ETF, it's in its third trading session now. We debuted this week under the ticker RIGZ on the NYSE. It's a actively managed fund focused on investing in the infrastructure that underpins this network. For those of you or your listener base, you probably understand that the cryptocurrency miners themselves are providing that essential service, which is that transaction validation and verification of trades across the world. So this is a leveraged play on the underlying commodity, offering exposure to the operators that are, if they're good, running efficient equipment at industrial scale power at reasonable costs, they're able to produce BTC at a significant discount to spot.
It's funny, this is a great segue from our previous segment where Michele Schneider said ESG concerns, clean mining, clean energy is going to be a hot topic in the crypto world and the financial space. So from your perspective, was there a demand for a financial investment vehicle like this?
Yeah, as a former CEO of a public listed miner on the NASDAQ, there's increasing pressures from shareholders, from the media, on boards and management teams, just to be more transparent about their sources of energy and being good corporate citizens in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. And our intent is to sort of further that narrative, to do what we can. And there's been the evolution of a number of associations that have popped up recently: the Crypto Climate Accord, the Bitcoin Mining Council, all pushing this agenda. And, we're first to bring a product to the markets with this narrative, with this thesis, through Viridi and RIGZ.
Okay. And yet there are also semiconductors. What's the relation?
Yeah. So, as one of the first publicly listed companies, like former CEO of one of the first publicly listed companies in North America, the sector's evolving. It's still in early innings here. And then governed by some of the SEC regulations about diversification within an ETF, we've wanted to sort of step down the supply chain, looking at the semiconductors, owning the semiconductor companies, the manufacturers of this mining equipment, just given the universe of potential or pure play publicly listed cryptocurrency mining operations is relatively small. As the sector evolved with some of the conclusion or completion of some of the announced transactions in the public markets, will continue to increase our weighting to pure play cryptocurrency miners powered by renewable and sustainable backed operations.
You mentioned public companies. Where geographically are most of these companies located?
Primarily in North America, Canada and the US, which tend to be the sort of beneficiaries of the hash rate growth in recent months and certainly the past 12 months.
And I understand it's available for trading on the New York Stock Exchange's ARCA platform. Anywhere else? Is it available now?
It is now, yeah. Third trading session we debuted on Tuesday. So super excited to complete this process, and we'll continue to innovate new products within this ecosystem as we go.
And on the conversation of ESG, does Bitcoin have an energy problem? What needs to happen in the space to convince institutional investors otherwise?
Look, it's as somebody that's been on the forefront of this narrative for the past 5 years, previously as an operator and now running a financial product in the sector. I do think it's a bit of a tired narrative. I mean, there's been some reports recently, one published by the Bitcoin Mining Council, saying that 50% plus of North American-based miners are powered by renewable. I built a mining operation in Canada in the province of Quebec, which was powered by and is powered by virtually 100% renewable-based energy, hydropower. The benefit of scaling crypto mining operations is you can locate a data center right next to a stranded source of energy. The infrastructure sitting up in northern Canada on a river somewhere where the actual owner of the electrical distribution code doesn't have to incur the major transmission costs tied to moving that to another jurisdiction and losses moving that to another jurisdiction. So beneficial sort of component of building and scaling an operation.
All right, Wes, we got to end it there, but thank you for joining us and good luck on this new ETF.
Thank you.
That was Viridi Fund CEO Wes Fulford, and that's it for All About Bitcoin. I'm your host, Christine Lee. Join us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in New York for First Mover, your first look at the day's global crypto news headlines. You're watching CoinDesk TV.